We'll have on the show, let's talk to Attorney Ferdinand Topacio regarding the decision of Timor-Leste on the extradition case of former Congressman Arnie Teves. We have him via Zoom. Good morning, Attorney. Good morning from the Philippines.
Yes, good morning, and it's always a pleasure to be in your show.
Attorney, thank you for joining us. Of course, we'd like to ask about yung recent decision po ng Timor-Leste on kay former Congressman Teves. Ano po ang mangyayari ngayon now that there's this decision? Is this final, Attorney, para malinawan po tayo lahat?
My counterpart counsels in Timor-Leste have informed me that this is a final as of the moment because it is based on constitutional grounds with respect and in relation to the constitution of Timor-Leste.
Okay. So, Attorney, I would like to ask, what were the major turning points of this case that led to this decision?
I believe that we were able to prove sufficiently that the extradition of Congressman Teves to the Philippines will result in him undergoing some form of torture, inhuman punishment, harassment, or risk to life and physical safety. And that was based on the testimony of witnesses, including actual persons who were intimidated, threatened, and tortured by the police and the military during the investigation of the Digamo murder, and the sworn statements of those accused in this country who claimed that they were also tortured and who later on recanted their testimonies when given the opportunity to secure counsel of their own choice, as well as expert testimonies from certain persons like Attorney Salvador Panelo and former Human Rights Commissioner Wilhelm Soriano, who testified as to the current political atmosphere in the Philippines and the a great likelihood that such a torture or inhuman treatment will be given to Congressman Teves, which is anathema to the Constitution of Timor-Leste and which very explicitly prohibits extradition under such circumstances.
Now, Attorney, that this decision has come, if you're privy to any information about, plano na po ni former Congressman Teves, next step niya po? Does he plan to file any cases back here, or does he plan to go home?
At this point, going home would not be in his best interest, considering how the present government appears to be using all the resources at its disposal to stifle political dissent and politically liquidate the legitimate opposition. So he will have to stay out there until such a time that he will be able to get a fair shake, which will not be attainable under the present state when the executive branch is heavily corrupted.
Yun nga po nung March 19 po kasi, bago po lumabas itong decision nito, umattend po ng isang forum itong si DOJ Secretary Crispin Remulla, and he somehow hinted daw na meron parang corruption ng justice system ng Timor-Leste. Your thoughts on that? And kasi ang DOJ, they were surprised and disappointed, of course, with this decision.
Ayan po ang problema when you have a justice secretary and a spokesman na bagito who have not seen the inside of a courtroom. At those are the breaks, as we say. Kaming mga seasoned lawyers, alam po namin yan. You may be consistently losing in the lower levels of the judiciary, but ultimately, you can win at the higher levels. It has happened to us before. Yung mga kaso po ni Pangulong Arroyo, na hinandel ko po at ni First Gentleman, we consistently lost in the lower courts, but ultimately we were vindicated in the Supreme Court. The same thing happened to the tax case of former President Erap Estrada, which I also handled. We lost at the level of the commissioner of the BIR, but we were exonerated at the level of the Court of Tax Appeals, and the Philippine government no longer appealed the judgment to the Supreme Court. So ganun po talaga. Ang problema po kasi hindi naman mga trial litigators itong mga nasa DOJ, kaya hindi po nila alam panay-puri sila sa gobyerno ng Timor-Leste at kapag nananalo sila, then things do not go their way, they insinuate corruption. That's very unseemly. Secretary Boying Remulla should know that. That's very unseemly for the Philippines, which has diplomatic relations with Timor-Leste, to be bad-mouthing its justice system. Pagkatapos ngayon, nananakot siya. It will have serious consequences now for Timor-Leste in their bid to become a full-fledged member of ASEAN. Hindi naman si Remulla ang nagseset ng foreign policy ng Pangulo, which makes you wonder whether he is talking on behalf of the President or he's just talking off the top of his head.
He even mentioned po na supposedly may pressure sa Timor-Leste because they wanted to become one of the members of ASEAN.
Well, if there is any pressure being brought to bear on the government of Timor-Leste, it is coming from Secretary Remulla. Inamin po niya na several times pumunta siya roon. Kinausap niya yung Pangulo ng Timor-Leste, si Mr. Ramos Horta, which is really improper considering that what Remulla was doing there was trying to influence the President of Timor-Leste to exert pressure on the judiciary. And under the Constitution of Timor-Leste, as it is under the Constitution of the Philippines, the judiciary is independent. So kung may pressure, si Remulla po nang pe-pressure niyan, very clear yan. So huwag na sanang baliktarin. That's being duplicitous.
Now, to take this opportunity as well to ask you about other matters, I hope you don't mind.
Ay, wait lang. Tatanong ko
before...
muna kung nakausap niya muna si Congressman Teves after this decision. Okay. Kamusta po siya at ano po ang kanyang naging pahayag regarding this decision? Attorney? Attorney, can you hear us? Apo. Attorney? Apo,
Yes, opo.
Kamusta po si
delayed lang po. Sorry, may connectivity problems.
Okay.
Ako yata where I am. Sa sobrang lamig yata, pati yung connection ay gininaw.
Nasaan po ba kayo?
Yes, I've talked to my client, of course, right after the good news was broken to me by my counterpart lawyers in Timor-Leste. And of course, he is in high spirits. He was crying and thanking the Lord above for helping him in his quest for justice.
Yan. So at least taking this opportunity, Attorney, I'd like to hear your opinion on the ongoing saga of President Duterte. These last 2 weeks, Secretary Remulla cited RA 9851, Section 17 as the basis of his arrest using the word surrender. Of course, the other side would say this was illegal because you still need to go through a proper court. So ano po ang opinion natin dyan, Attorney?
Ang opinion ko po dyan sir, ay maling-mali na naman si Secretary Remulla as usual. Alam niyo po, yung sinasite po niyang batas ay isang act of Congress. At nakalagay po roon, at the law, Section 17 uses the word may. And every lawyer worth his salt knows that the word may is directory, not mandatory. Therefore, he should read the entire law. We cannot cherry-pick provisions of the law to support our own views. The entirety of the law says that while you may extradite and surrender any person upon a warrant of the ICC, it should be done within the procedure set by our law. Because the ICC warrant has no force and effect in our country, because we are a sovereign country. There is no such thing as an international warrant. And what is the law on arrests? The law on arrests cannot be found in the law that he is invoking. It can be found in the Constitution. The Constitution is the fundamental law with whose standards all other laws shall be subordinated and must conform. Ano pong nakalagay sa ating saligang batas? No person may be arrested except on the virtue of a warrant issued by a judge of a local court, meaning a court in the Philippines, based on probable cause. And that probable cause should be determined by the judge after personally examining the witnesses of the prosecution and such other evidence as the prosecution may prefer in court. subject to a personal determination of the judge. Absent such a warrant, no arrest, except for the exceptions stated in the rules of court. No arrest can be made, and the arrest of former President Duterte does not fall under any of those exceptions.
So in other words,
Maling-mali po yun.
so
That's kidnapping plain and simple.
So in other words nga po, wrongful arrest ang nangyari po kay former President Duterte, in your opinion?
Opo, in my opinion, not only in my opinion, the opinion of so many other lawyers who know their law and their constitution, unlike the Secretary of Justice.
Attorney, I'm not sure if you saw yung kanina yung presser ni Attorney Claire Castro together. I think it was Attorney Bontuyan, supposedly an ICC accredited lawyer. He said at the very least, pag humarap daw sa local court si Pangulong Duterte, ang sagaran daw is to just establish his identity, then he could be surrendered to the nation. Ano po ang reaction nyo dyan? Parang sa tanong, are you President Duterte? Yes. O, tapos pwede na daw ipadala.
Ang payo ko po sa kanila, basahin po nila yung extradition law natin, which is still extant, which is Presidential Decree 1069. Basahin po nila yung procedure because the warrant issued by the ICC is for all legal intents and purposes a request for extradition. Ano yung request for extradition? It is a request from the requesting state directed to another state asking that a citizen of that state or any person which can be found in that state which was alleged to have committed a crime be brought before it. But before that, since the Constitution says in the Bill of Rights that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, due process must be accorded to that person. At ano po yung due process na yun? Yung proseso na matatagpuan sa extradition law natin. At yan pong extradition law na yun ay iginawad po yun ang panahon ni Marcos Sr.
Yes,
Kaya hindi ko malaman kung bakit yung batas na ginawa ng kanyang ama ay ayaw galangin ng anak. Palagay ko isang kalapastanganan yun sa kanyang tatay. At least Marcos Sr. knew enough, notwithstanding our accusations of him being a dictator, he knew enough to follow due process when it comes to extradition. Etong gobyerno ito, wala. No due process, brazen violation of the Constitution, walang proseso, basta kukunin ka na lang, dadaling ka sa Hague.
Pero sinabi po ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos na talaga pong hindi po sila nakipag-coordinate sa ICC, pero meron daw po tayong obligation with the Interpol. Your comment on that po?
Lusot po yun. But do not take my word for it. Pwede nyo pong i-google, pwede natin gayahin si Dan Fernandez at mag-google, pwede po nyo tingnan yung website ng Interpol. Ano pong nakalagay sa website mismo ng Interpol? It says there that a red notice is a request. Ano po yung request? Pakiusap. Ang pakiusap po, pwede mong gawin o hindi. Bakit request po? Because, again, our country is a sovereign nation. No other country can impose its will or order us to do something that we do not like to do. Plus, nakalagay din po ron, the Interpol cannot compel any country to comply with a red notice. Ano pa pong nakalagay doon sa website? Very clear po ron, nakalagay, in the implementation of a red notice, every country uses its own laws in order to implement the red notice. At ano naman, again, ang batas dito, ang batas po natin, hindi pwedeng arestuhin ng walang warrant issued by a local court, and kung ang isang mamamayan natin ay dadalhin sa ibang bansa on extradition, dapat pong dumaan sa proseso ng extradition na under the law, which is our extradition law. Napakaliwanag po noon. Because the duty of every state is to protect its citizen. Yung mga citizens nga po natin sa ibang bansa na inaaresto, convicted na sa droga, sa murder, sinisikap pa natin ibalik dito. Pagkatapos, ang isang dating Pangulo, ibibigay natin sa ibang bansa. Anong klaseng mentalidad ng isang Pangulo yan? Basta ipamimigay mo yung iyong mamamayan. That is not the kind of leadership that we need. That is very weak leadership.
Okay. Alright, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, Atty. Ferdinand Topacio. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure po. Thank you very much. God bless and have a nice day.